And we are back. Welcome back into this special edition of the Pigskin Cafe. I'm Graham Haney, and it's just me tonight. We're going to be breaking down the top five coaches with the hottest seats in college football. I mean, the season's already in full swing. As I'm recording this, it is going into week 9, and there's already been some major moves that have been made. We've had Carl Durrell at Colorado been let go, which I mean was past due. Colorado is the worst team in college football by pretty much all metrics as of right now. Will Healy at Charlotte has been let go after having a very good career at Austin Peay. Just couldn't get everything going for Charlotte and that new 49er program. And then the biggest name so far has been Scott Frost at Nebraska. Coming into the season, we talked about it. We knew that he was going to be on the hot seat. And if Nebraska didn't get started hot, if they didn't get off to a good start, he was going to be let go. And, well, let's just say he didn't last very long. But I've got several names here that their seats are really hot. I mean, they are smoking at this point. Some they're going to need to let go. There's others that they'll probably make it till next year for a variety of reasons. But before I dive into those five names, I've got two honorable mentions. I think they're big names and they're very important, especially with how their season has been going. But I think they have too much on their resume to let them go as of right now. The first one is Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. I mean, he is truly a fantastic football coach by a lot of people's opinions. He's been interviewed by multiple NFL teams for jobs in the past, and he's decided to stay at Northwestern and lead that program in Northern Illinois. Some news has come out that Northwestern is actually going to build a new stadium, and if you've seen the pictures, I mean, it looks phenomenal. And Northwestern is, I believe, only 2 or 3 years out from being in the Big Ten championship game and losing to Ohio State. So there's been a recent success at Northwestern for Pat Fitzgerald, which is definitely different than a lot of coaches that will be on this hot list. But they're currently 1-6. And their only win was against Nebraska, who has fired Scott Frost, and I mean their win was in Ireland. So this season, Northwestern hasn't even won a game in the United States as of yet. But Northwestern seems to do this. They seem to have one or two lackluster years, and then those next 2 years they really crank things up and are really good. So I think Pat Fitzgerald will hold on to his job just for the fact that we've kind of been through this cycle a little bit before, but 1-6 is very unprecedented for Northwestern. But on the bright side, they do have a top 30 recruiting class as of 247 Sports, as today as I record this video. So there's still some upside that can be had at Northwestern. The second name that is an honorable mention is Kirk Ferentz from Iowa. I believe he's the longest tenured head football coach in FBS right now and has had a lot of success at Iowa. But if you've watched any of their games, which I mean, God bless you if you have, it's been atrocious. They are the ugliest football team you might could ever watch. I mean, their offense is setting like records for how bad they are. It is hard to watch, and especially when the head coach's son is the offensive coordinator. I mean, he might fall on his sword to protect his son, but Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, they have a rich tradition of success, and um, I mean, they've had recent success as well, and Kirk Ferentz has been able to get in good recruits to Iowa, but the offense has always been lackluster. And with how Ryan Day has Ohio State and Jim Harbaugh at Michigan has things turned around, I mean, you've got to beg the question whether Iowa is willing to make a change. I believe this offseason, Kirk Ferentz signed an extension that brought him until 2029. So I think that he's going to be safe. He's going to stay put at Iowa. But man, if things don't change on the field, something has to on the sidelines because it is brutal for Iowa and the Hawkeyes. All right, so the first one on our list is, I mean, truly the easiest name that I'm going to talk about. And I mean, there's ample proof as to why he should be fired. That is Jeff Scott at South Florida. I mean, I don't know if anything could go worse for South Florida in 3 seasons at the helm. He's 4-24. 4-24. He has 4 wins and 24 losses. I'm not trying to explain that to y'all. I'm just trying to emphasize how awful that is. He has 4 wins and he still has a job. I believe he even signed an extension for another year or two this offseason. I don't know what he's done to the South Florida administration, but he needs to go. In the past 3 seasons, Jeff Scott has won 1 game against an FBS opponent, and that was in 2021, the COVID year against it was against Temple. Temple, I believe. Yeah, Temple, and Temple was 3-9 that season, so Temple was mighty bad. The other 3 wins he has are against FCS teams, and man, every single win he's had has been at home. So he's awful on the road. I mean, he's awful at home. He's even worse on the road. Jeff Scott, I mean, I don't know what else you're wanting to see out of him. He got 15 Division One transfers in this past recruiting cycle, so he brought in guys to help win now. And let's just say things are not going well in Tampa. Jeff Scott, first name on the list, he's got to go. The second name is Justin Wilcox, who's the head coach of the University of California. He's in his 6th season and had some fairly decent success whenever he started out there. His first season was 5-7, I believe, 5-6. So there was room for improvement after the first season, but he really rebounded. In the second and third seasons, he was very successful. Let's bring up the record. It was he was 5-7 in 2017, his first season. In 2018, he was 7-6, and in 2019, he was 8-5. And so he took California to 2 bowl games in his second and third seasons, respectively. And so he built up some momentum there in Berkeley. He built up some success. California has a rich tradition. They've got lots of NFL players currently, and some big names out there. Marshawn Lynch, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff. They have big names. Keenan Allen have all gone to the University of California, and man, things just keep getting worse. In 2020, in this the COVID season, he was 1-3, so not very good. But we kind of got to take that with a grain of salt because a lot of teams were, severely outmatched with what they had to work with, their administration, their team, their stadium. So in 4 games, 1-3 is not good, but he'll survive to the next year. In 2021, last season, he was 5-7. So he left a lot to be desired. And this year, he's 3-4, and he's 1-3 in the Pac-12 conference play. And that 1 win was against Arizona, and we've talked about it on the pod. Arizona is not good. They're on the come up. They're doing better. Jed Fish, I believe, is doing a good job at Arizona, kind of building up momentum there. But I mean, whenever they get something going, they seem to, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. They lost in overtime to Colorado, who I just mentioned was the worst team in college football. And in Colorado, that's the only win on the season. So um, things are going pretty bad in Berkeley, and Justin Wilcox currently has like the 94th, 95th ranked recruiting class in this 2023 cycle. So he's not bringing in talent, he's not developing talent, and that's not translating to wins. I think Justin Wilcox had success at Wisconsin as their defensive coordinator, and has just not lived up to the hype as their head coach of California. And I do want to mention that with UCLA and USC making the move to the Big Ten, I think that kind of opens up Cal and another name on this list I'll talk about to really make some moves to try and solidify their position in California in the Pac-12. And so I think Justin Wilcox has to go. And bringing up that next name, it's gonna be David Shaw at Stanford. I mean, we're in the Bay Area and things are ugly for football. I mean, it is awful. If you're like me, you recall Stanford being one of the best teams in the country the past decade plus. I mean, with Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw, they've had great teams with Christian McCaffrey, Andrew Luck, the running back whose name was Love. I mean, they've had a lot of good players out there and really knew what their identity was. They were going to run the football. They were going to mano a mano, punch you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth, and see how you would respond. And Stanford these past couple seasons have been mighty pitiful. But I will say that David Shaw's seat is not gonna. The heat's not becoming because of the administration or the fan base at Stanford, because if you watch any of their football games, nobody is there except uh, these crazy looking people that are in the band and a tree. So, yeah, I mean, the heat is all coming from outside of people knowing what Stanford has been and what Stanford could be, and they're not living up to the hype. In the past 2 seasons, um, Stanford has won like 1 game or 2 games against FBS opponents, and they've both been this season against Notre Dame, and there was one more. I believe it might have been Washington State. So things are not going good in Palo Alto for David Shaw. I think the trajectory for him is just going down, and Stanford needs to let him go in order to save the success that they built over the past decade plus. I don't think he's probably fired, but he's a name that needs to be. If he's not going to be fired, there needs to be pressure on him to perform. Number four is Neil Brown at West Virginia. Things have not gone very good for Neil Brown at West Virginia. You could say they could go worse, but I don't know if I would truly believe it. I mean, the team has just been very average, 5-6, 6-5. That is kind of what West Virginia has been under Neil Brown. As a new coach going into a program like West Virginia, he's going to be given a fairly long leash to develop talent, to bring new talent in, especially when changing systems from what Dana Holgerson implemented there at West Virginia. Dana was really just trying to build for the here and now and didn't really develop talent the way that he should have to build long-term success. And so that kind of set up Neil Brown and put him in a tough position, but after 4 seasons, I mean, things have not gone very good for Neil Brown. He's from the Valley, from Kentucky area, so he's kind of a hometown guy, and I believe that lots of West Virginia fans had lots of hope for Neil Brown and the success he'd had at Troy, but long gone are those days. He's currently 3-4, and the schedule only gets tougher from here. I think that the biggest concern for Neil Brown's job security at West Virginia is I mean, just explosive, like trend that Kansas and TCU have had this season. Kansas, under the leadership of Lance Leipold, has turned that around, turned that program around. And I mean, when you usually talk about Kansas, you talk about them as a basketball school, you laugh at their football team. And so you kind of think as a West Virginia fan, like, we can't be losing to Kansas regardless of the situation. And things only get worse for Neil Brown when you look at what Sonny Dykes has done at one season at TCU. I mean, truly, they're electrifying with Garrett Riley's the offensive coordinator, Max Duggan at quarterback. TCU is a hot team right now, and they're undefeated. And if you're looking at West Virginia, I mean, they've left a lot to be desired. I don't know if West Virginia has a name out there that they could go steal that would be better than Neil Brown. But I think the fan base is just kind of growing restless, and that's concerning for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And this last name is one that we've all talked about. We all know it's just a matter of time, and that's Brian Harsin at Auburn. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this one. With the rest of them, things have gone good, things have gone bad, but we've all had reasons to let them go. But from day one, Brian Harsin has not had the support of the fan base, of the administration, of the players. I mean, there's been very little buy-in to what Brian Harsin can do and will do, or would be able to do at Auburn, and it's kind of concerning from an outside perspective of not being an Auburn fan that I think their expectations are way above what they can afford to do. I think that Auburn probably has, it might be one of the toughest, coaching positions in college football. They have an in-state rival in Alabama who is a powerhouse of what Nick Saban has built, has a rich history of football success. They play their other rival is Georgia, who right now, I don't know if there's a better team in college football than Georgia. And Kirby Smart is that's where he's from. He is an Athens alumni, and so their trajectories are both very, very they're trending upward. I mean, and every year playing in that SEC West schedule, you're going to have to go up against LSU, Arkansas, especially with what Sam Pittman is building at Arkansas. Not that they're going to beat Alabama or Georgia, but they're going to be a tough win every single year. They're going to fight tooth and nail against you, and they're a scrappy bunch. You play Ole Miss and what Lane Kiffin is building in Oxford. I mean, for Auburn, just you're trending downward. And that's a big concern for an elite program in college football. I mean, we're not even going to bring up Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M's willingness to spend money, but Auburn just always seems to be left out of the conversation in the SEC West, and I believe part of that is due, and part of that is justified because uh, they're so used to and they have such high expectations where they want to win every single game, which is reasonable for an SEC program, especially in the same state as Alabama, with a rival of Georgia. Auburn wants to win. You can't blame them for that. But they fire Gus Malzahn, who had fairly good success at Auburn in his first season, took them to the national championship game. They lost to Jimbo Fisher in Florida State, but had success. I mean, every few years they were beating Georgia, they were beating Alabama, and so even in the worst seasons, you at least had hope to hold on to knowing that maybe we can at least beat Georgia and ruin their season, or beat Alabama and ruin their season. But things just get worse for Brian Harsin. He's a poor recruiter, which Hampton loves to talk about how poor at recruiting he is. And there's even been rumors going around. I saw a news article where Brian Harsin told his team that if they wanted to redshirt, that they might as well enter the transfer portal, and that is not a good thing coming from a coach, because you want to use red shirts to give like players that need a year or two of development before they're going to be able to contribute. Let's save that year and let's add it on to year 5 instead of using it up year 1. Brian Harsin at Auburn, he probably has the hottest seat that we're talking about right now. I mean, the pressure has been building on Brian Harsin every week. The offseason, they wanted to can him. This season, things have not improved, and this Auburn team is kind of lacking fight. Their one win in the SEC was against Missouri, who is not good, and they're a missed field goal and a fumble away from losing that one. So then their 2 wins this season would be against San Jose State and Mercer. Things are not looking good on the Plains for Auburn. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this video, the special edition of the college football coaching carousel and coaching hot seat. Before we leave, though, make sure to like the video, comment if you agree or disagree. Let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Pigskin Cafe. And if this is your first time listening or not, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you listening to me. And this is not a Hampton tour rant, but I do think it's kind of an important thing to talk about. College football coaching hot seats is always a fun thing to talk about and think about throughout the season, because there's going to be names that I didn't mention that are going to get canned before names that I did mention. There's going to be curveballs out of left field that are going to come out, and it's fun to track, it's fun to watch, and it's fun to keep up with. But I think it's gonna wrap it up for this video. So thanks for tuning in, and the Pigskin Cafe is gonna be closed for now. But until next time, chew on that.